MMA Rants and Raves, KSW 16, Mariusz Pudzianowski versus James Thompson. Guys, since Mariusz Pudzianowski has gotten into mixed martial arts, he has received a lot of praise as well as criticism. And I got a serious rant here, and my rant is with the criticism. I mean, I can't understand why people would criticize this guy. I mean, here you have a guy. I mean, he is the Babe Ruth, the Joe Montana, the Wayne Gretzky, the Michael Jordan, the Mike Tyson, the Fedor Emelianenko of the world's strongest man sport. I mean, he won it 5 times. He is the greatest world's strongest man in history. Okay? There's no question about that. Now, he takes this success, right, in this sport, and he goes into another sport. He's able to transcend that success, go into another sport and have some success. I mean, he is 3-1. He absolutely dominated his first opponent, okay? Defeated a seasoned mixed martial artist in his second fight. Then he faces Tim Sylvia. Tim Sylvia, by the way, came in great shape in that fight. He had his back against the wall. And a Tim Sylvia that's in good shape fights well. In his last fight, he wasn't in good shape, okay? He didn't look like he was in good shape, and he lost the fight. I'm not going to get into it. The point is, you know, it was a tough fight, of course, for him, you know, and it's a setback. And what does he do in his next fight? You know, he comes out in his next fight and absolutely dominates his opponent. So here you have a guy, you know, he's able to transcend that success from coming from one sport and going into a totally different sport, right? And having some success. I mean, you got to give him credit for doing that, because he's the only guy that I can think of that's done that. I mean, the only other guy that's been the best he can be at his sport that I can think of that went into another sport, to my thinking, is Michael Jordan. I mean, I remember this guy, you know, I was watching him. I mean, a lot of people consider him to be the best basketball player to ever live, right? A lot of people. And he tried his hand at baseball, and he wasn't successful. He didn't have success doing it. And I can't think of anybody else that has been that good, you know, I mean, the best at that sport, and is able to go into another sport and have some success. And that's what Mariusz Pudzianowski has done. And if people criticize this guy because they expected the world from him, I mean, I think people like that are just a bunch of goofs. I mean, serious goofs to criticize this guy because, you know, he was the best at his sport, comes in, has some success, and people are going around criticizing him. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, as far as the fight's concerned, I think James Thompson is a good fight for Mariusz. It really is. And here's why. Because he's going to be the first guy that he's going to be facing that is really big. I mean, Thompson, despite everything about him, everything he's done, you know, in the past, he is a big guy. He's 6'4", about 290. Maybe fight time, he probably comes in even more than that. He's taller than Mariusz, and the guy that Mariusz had the most problems with was a really tall, big guy, you know, and a guy who has some experience in mixed martial arts, and that was Tim Sylvia. You saw he was trying to get him down with that wrestling, and it was Sylvia's size, you know, that was a factor why he struggled so mightily to get him down, and, you know, then the cardio problems hit him. So, you know, if you look at Thompson, he's also a really big guy. I mean, not as tall as Sylvia, but, you know, it's a good fight for him. It's a good fight for him to see how he's going to use his technique against him. So it can be interesting to watch. And you saw Mariusz in his last fight. He went for a quick shoot. He shot for a single leg and got a quick trip and a takedown. And against Sylvia, you know, it looked like he was constantly trying to manhandle Sylvia, a really big guy against the cage. He was relentless, wouldn't give up for that takedown. It looks like he was trying to get, you know, an armbar or something when he was on the ground. So it looks like he's training, he's trying to do things. He's not just this guy that's going to go for a takedown, you know, and do ground and pound. It looks like he's trying to learn certain things. But the point being is, it's going to be interesting, you know, what he does against Thompson. And I always say this, you know, this guy is not a striker. It's going to be a waste of all that size. Mariusz's calling is wrestling. I mean, he's got that wrestler's build. He's very wide, extremely powerful up top, and he's got to use that size, all right, that size to his advantage. And by using that size to his advantage, I'm talking about wrestling. Wrestling, you're using everything. That's why it's such an important base to have. Using your arms, your legs, your shoulders, your hips. I mean, everything is going at once. Everything is moving at once and happening at once. But, you know, wrestling, everything is just going at 100 miles an hour. You know, with striking, you're not using as much the intensity, that is. That's really what I'm getting at here. And when you have such size, it really helps your wrestling, because size is such a factor in wrestling. How many times do we see it? So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how he uses the wrestling. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And, you know, it's a good fight for him, just like I said. So I'd like to know what you think about the fight and the KSW 16 card. Please leave your comments below the video, rate this video and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.